Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. In this video, we are going to be asking and hopefully answering the question that I know is at the front of most people's minds right now that are involved in the crypto space, and that is, are we about to go into a bear market, or has the bear market already started for the crypto space? We're going to be looking at why it is people believe we are in a bear market. We're going to be kind of summarizing everything. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin on a macro timescale for today. We are very quickly going to go over us on a shorter time frame. The reason we're doing this is because right now, ladies and gentlemen, I do not think anybody can tell you with certainty which way we are about to go. On a shorter term time frame. Ultimately, on a longer term time frame, I can quite comfortably make a prediction that we are in a macro bull and that the only way for the crypto space is up. We're going to look at a number of metrics that suggest that. This is the total money in crypto. But right now, guys, we're largely dependent on what Bitcoin decides to do. And right now, I'm watching for a potential rising wedge that may form and will, in my opinion, lead us to further downside. And we will see where this will take us. And ultimately, what now happens in Bitcoin, and we know that Bitcoin is the driver of space and the value, and ultimately everything is just going to follow Bitcoin in regards to the crypto space. Right now, what happens with Bitcoin on the short-term time frame is going to dictate exactly what happens. Now, let's touch, first of all, on why it is people believe that we may be entering a bear market. And it's very simple, really, guys. We're going to take off the EMAs. I should have done this prior to going live on this video. Why is it that people believe that we are in a bear market, or certainly entering a crypto bear market? Well, the main reason, ladies and gentlemen, is because of the severity of the sell-off we have just had. Around about 55%. That is unorthodox, certainly in comparison with 2017's bull run, where we only sold off, maximum sort of 43%. Now, we've made a lot of videos over the past couple of days with a lot of useful information in, and we've looked at what really helped this sell-off to be as severe as it is. And we know from around about 38,000 all the way down to 30 was a lot of leverage longs getting liquidated, which would have caused a significant sell pressure to the overall crypto space, and more importantly, Bitcoin, the driver of value. So I ultimately think that this sell-off right here was largely over-exaggerated with the amount of irresponsible longs that there were. And ultimately, back in 2017 and prior to that 2013, which we're going to talk about in a second, you did not have the kind of leverage that you have today. So this is going to amplify not only a downwards move, but an upwards move. So the idea that we are in a bear market due to the fact that we have sold off this severely, let's address that right now. Let's talk about a number of things. Let's first of all look at Bitcoin. Let's look at previous bull markets that we have had and how they played out. So we don't know how this one is going to play out. This could, and there is the possibility of this, be the shortest bull market we have ever had in the crypto space. It could be prematurely ended before we enter another bear market. But we're going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about why, even if that was the case, it perhaps isn't the worst. There's a yin and a yang. There's a positive in everything. Even the negativist, even the worst situations, guys, there's always a positive in it. And if you can find that, that is really the key to succeeding in life, is to take whatever life throws at you and making, that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade, or whatever it is really true. So 2017, we know that we frequently had the kind of, anything up to like a 43% sell-off, and we had them frequently. In 2017, we also stuck to this EMA a lot more closely. We're going to talk about the fact that this cycle has largely been ahead of previous cycles. We've really ran away from the EMA, and this could just be an equilibrium moment that's kind of brought us back down to earth. But in our prior bull run in 2013, we actually had a sell-off that was significantly more significantly more brutal. That was around about 76%. Now, back in 2013, there wasn't a lot of liquidity in the market. It was a ridiculously smaller market cap. Bitcoin went from $256 all the way down to 61. So you can, it gives you an idea of just how small the space was. You didn't have all these altcoins. You didn't have, things. You didn't have a lot back then. And ultimately, we were still in a bull run regardless of this. It just took a different form. And we've spoken about the possibilities of that on another video and why I don't think we were going to see a 76% sell-off. I could absolutely be wrong. We have seen a pretty brutal sell-off today, and ultimately what's going to, how we're going to move forward is largely going to depend on Bitcoin and what it decides to do, and ultimately the kind of momentum that it takes now. So the idea that we've entered a bear market based on the fact that we've sold off this severely, I am not 100% on board with. Now, have we seen sell-offs like this in this previous cycle? Yes, we saw a sell-off like this back in March that was significantly more severe. In fact, it was round about let's just draw that properly, a 63% sell-off. So we've actually had and recovered from a more significant sell-off than the one we are currently in. The reason I'm making this video, guys, is because it seems like a lot of you out there are losing hope. I think I'm fortunate in many ways that I'm still in profits, largely on my crypto portfolio. And not only that, I was here in 2017 and got to witness, a pretty brutal bear market, which left me really searching for reasons to stay in the space. And I ultimately fell upon the fact, the kind of fundamentals and the ideologies of blockchain technology and what it was going to do for the world. That's why I'm still here today. That's why I very much diamond hands right now in times like this. And ultimately, this thing could sell off 95% again, guys. And all it would be for me is a great buying opportunity and accumulation phase. Because if you look at the overall trend of the crypto space, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a really important thing to remember, if you are an investor and not just a speculator or a trader, even worse in many cases, look at the overall trend for the crypto space. It's just up, guys. This technology, and we've spoken about it on a number of occasions, World Economic Forum, blockchain could disrupt 867 trillion in traditional markets. This article came out yesterday. Goldman Sachs crypto chief worried about fraud, but not cryptocurrency's future. I can't tell you how much sort of institutional interest there is in the crypto space. And ultimately, when we kind of take into account the fact that the sell-off that we've just had a lot of resemblance to something called Wyckoff distribution, which essentially is an indication that you have the composite man. In other words, the kind of people that have a vested interest in keeping you poor and making sure they stay rich. Moving this market really shows a real value proposition within the market. And that's really what this video is about. And ultimately, we are trying to ask and answer the question of, are we now in a bear market? So the main thing that people are using to suggest that we are in a bear market, like I say, is the severity of this sell-off. Now, we've looked at the fact that we sold off in another bear market more severely. We had sell-offs that were, some 43%, which isn't that far away from 54%. And if you account the fact that we had a lot of leverage that just got wrecked and kind of spurred on this sell-off, if you took away the leverage, you'd still be in that kind of ballpark for 2017's sell-off. And ultimately, we're macro bull cryptocurrencies. If you look at the total money in crypto, I'm drawing lines all over the place, guys. It's been one of them weeks. If you look at the total sort of movement for the crypto space, guys, it's so apparent. In terms of an investment, it's pretty obvious where this is going. And this has been moving in this direction largely without what we've seen recently to combat the kind of situation that we're all in. And that is governments all around the world devaluing their own fiat systems, which ultimately is going to lead to inflation, which is going to lead to assets going up, commodities, goods, services, all going up in price. And cryptocurrencies isn't going to escape that. So ultimately, from an investment standpoint, ladies and gentlemen, you have nothing to worry about. From a short-term standpoint, for those of you guys who bought a month ago and now think you're going to be rich in 6 months, perhaps you are going to be in for a bit of a longer game, and that might not be how things play out. But right now, where I'm sat, I'm not confirmed that we're in a bear market at all. In fact, I think there is still largely hope for the crypto space. It's all largely dependent on what Bitcoin does over the coming days. We don't want to see another rising wedge form. We want to see, rather than us do something like this, where you kind of bounce around but you're ultimately going up before you sell off, we want to see more of a rounding structure, more of a bottoming out structure, and we want to see accumulation take place. If we see that, guys, this bull run is still on. But like I say, there are so many variables. Nobody is going to be able to tell you. We are still in a bull market, in my opinion, regardless of this sell-off. However, if this sell-off continues for an extended period of time, if we start to kind of smash through these EMAs and we see kind of death crosses forming, and we get pinned below this, that is a bit of a precursor for another bear market. Now let's talk about if we were in a bear market, which I do not think we are going to be in. I think ultimately there is still a lot left for the crypto space. Let's take the worst sort of case scenario, and let's lay it on the table. Let's say, for example, that we are indeed in a bear market. What would that mean? Well, last bear market that we had, the important thing is to remember, guys, that you're making ground. If we look at where we topped out in relation to the 2017 bull run and then the bear market that we entered that topped out in round about the kind of December 2018 period, you can see that you made significant progress above your prior bull run high. So if we're to do that again, which we could be doing, as long as we've made progress, guys, and we don't kind of enter a too much of a severe bear market, you don't really have much to worry about. Because let's say we did enter it, this cycle's been sort of cut short, we enter a bear market. What does that really mean? Well, that means that you aren't going to be able to get rich by the end of the year for some of you that were hoping to do so. But ultimately, what it does offer you is a really good opportunity to actually invest in the crypto space, to learn about the crypto space, because I know a lot of you are new to the space and probably couldn't even tell me what a blockchain is fundamentally. And it really gives you an opportunity to kind of have a second go at things. And ultimately, I can't be more confident when I say this, and I could be wrong, that blockchain technology is the future. It's going to play a fundamental role in the new world that we are moving towards, in a similar way to how everybody uses the internet today. The internet is really the driving force of many companies. The biggest hotel service out there is essentially a protocol, Airbnb. The biggest taxi service is also an application, Uber. Blockchain is going to have a fundamental role in the world that we're moving towards, and I'm confident of that. And if we do indeed enter a bear market, ladies and gentlemen, it is not the end of the world. Certainly for somebody like me, and I've always said I am an investor, I do take some short-term trades, and I'm going to continue to do so, but that's really more for a learning experience. You will be all the better if we do enter a bear market for the experience that you've just gone through. You would have learned a valuable lesson from it. I still think we are going to see a recovery, but that ultimately depends on what Bitcoin does now. This V-shaped recovery we'd love to see in a similar fashion to how we saw it back in March, when we had the kind of that horrific news that shocked the world, and we thought everything was going to come to a standstill, which it kind of did in many respects, which was more of a severe sell-off, and Bitcoin still held resilient through that. I think you're going to see a lot of resilience now. And also, ultimately, one thing that I really want to comment on, guys, and before I wrap this video up, and I hope some of you have found this helpful, is the fact that I am seeing a lot of China. Let's talk about China. Because there's no avoiding it at this point. Lots of people are blaming this on the fact that China are banning Bitcoin and cracking down on it. They've done this every single year. Google is banned in China. There is a long list of things that are banned in China that have done just fine, like Google, for example. China banned freedom for their citizens. So what makes you think that they were going to allow something like Bitcoin, which is a system that is completely separate from a government system, a fiat system, and that's where its real value is at? What makes you think they were going to allow their citizens to use and transact among each other without them having any kind of say-so? You can't even use the internet in China without them monitoring it and having a say in what you can and can't do. It's irrelevant. And in some ways, this sell-off that we're seeing is almost like purifying the market in many ways, because it's getting rid of the nonsense at this point. And that is really what's going on. There is a lot of manipulation going on here. One thing that I like to see is the fact that a lot of big whales have dispersed some of their holdings, and it's actually been retail guys that have been accumulating it. And the key to this market, the key to investing in the cryptocurrency market, and 2017 taught me this lesson, is to hold your cryptocurrencies. Be an investor for a longer time period, not necessarily in the short term frame. Now, we're being very pessimistic. I don't mean to be. It's just that, right now I'm not really seeing much support for Bitcoin. There's a lot that needs to happen in order for me to kind of go, okay, right, we're finding our feet and we're bottoming out. We could be doing that here. Ultimately, you know, there's lots of calls for us to go to that 28k mark. There was an insider that seems to think that we're going to go to that 25k mark, which we could indeed do. Nobody knows right now exactly what is going to happen. The only thing you can do is take your best guess at it. Ultimately, we made a video yesterday where we said we still believe that Bitcoin is indeed going to that 160k range. How we got that was we overlaid a Fibbo. And we essentially looked at where that fib from our new high and low took us, and it took us to around about that 160k mark without any kind of over performance. That's really all I have for you in this video, guys. I'm going to love and leave you on that note. I hope you guys have found this helpful. Ultimately, like I say, let's do a quick recap. People saying that we are entering a bear market really based on the fact of the severity of this sell-off. You can see why, because usually this kind of a severe sell-off is really kind of a precursor, if you will, to further downside, but we'll see what happens, ladies and gentlemen. Ultimately, you know, time is really going to be the best teacher at this point. We're going to have to ride this out. But remember, if you zoom out and you look on a macro scale, the cryptocurrency is only going one way the cryptocurrency world is only going one way in my opinion, and that is up. That's all I have for you in this video, ladies and gentlemen. Been long-winded. I hope I haven't waffled on too much. But we said we were going to get very aggressive in terms of the content we were going to create, certainly in times like this when everyone's panicking and fearful. That is all I have for you in the video, guys. I'm going to love and leave you on that note, and hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.